Happy Friday is what I try to say to everybody at work, despite it being a deadline week. I don't know if y'all have deadline weeks on the job that y'all work with. It's been a full Friday. Obviously, we had a full Thursday night watching the draft. If you caught the draft, depending on your perception about it, I thought the NFL draft was really based around needs for the most part. It didn't really shock me that Shador Sanders, that was the story, that he didn't get drafted in the first round. I feel like if you have a lot of common sense when it comes to the space of sports, that draft was based around needs. Um, he should get picked up in the 2 or 3 at some point. My idea is that he'll most likely go to the Browns. But we are in season 2032. I don't know what season this makes for us. I don't know if that's season 8, 9, 10, 11. I have no idea what season we are in. Hell, I haven't even posted the last 2 Super Bowl winners as far as our newspaper that we post out to celebrate the winners. Obviously, this last one went to Vic with Alabama with a rout. Pretty much blowout win over DMAC with Clemson. Shout out to Clemson, obviously, for making it. DMAC making it with Clemson to the national championship. I do believe the biggest game that we saw in the playoffs was between LSU and Alabama. But we are going on into the next season, and as you can see, I am currently looking at the conference standings. These are the preseason top. The preseason top 25 for the game, and currently it has Georgia in the number 1 spot, Alabama in at the second, Michigan third, Notre Dame fourth, Florida State 5, LSU 6, Oklahoma, Clemson, A&M, and Michigan State to finish up the top 10. And then, of course, kind of a switch there, seeing Nebraska at the 11th. I'm not sure where the game kind of got Nebraska up into that 11th spot, but it does have King 504 sitting at 11, Qua at 12, and then to finish out for the top 10, we do have a few CPU teams, hoping that those get knocked out as time goes on. But we are going to flip over between the top 25. The preseason All-Americans was kind of interesting looking at this morning as well, seeing like where the game has potential All-American players for the season for the first team. A little upset they don't got nobody on my Wisconsin squad as a first team. Kind of a downer for that, but it is what it is. I'm in a place where it's just really fuck this game, trying to get to the next cycle, but enjoying the game that we have up to this point. You can also see the second team as well. Going over to the conferences. Not a major shift in conferences, but there were a few changes made. As you can see, for the ACC, pretty much stayed the same. Going over to the Big 12, the biggest difference was Michigan State did win the Pac-12. As I stated, I believe in the kind of a previous conversation or show, one of the changes that was going to get made was based around if you win a conference or make it to a natty, there would be a transition of some kind. Obviously, you can see Texas in the Big 12. That's a new user coming into the league. Obviously, I don't want to just throw him right into the fire with that SEC. That may change depending on how he plays in the Big 12 this season. But you do see the Big 12 there. Going over to the Big 10, currently it's Colorado, Oregon, Ole Miss. Yes, Blaze was on the bottom of the SEC last season. He gets pulled out and pulled over into the Big 10, adding himself over into the Big 10 conversation. We'll see how the Big 10 plays out. And then, of course, the Pac-12, you have Missouri, UCLA. Quad goes into the Pac-12. Mainly had to do with more with that rating of that Washington team and how much of it fell. Nebraska sitting over in the Pac-12, currently showing in the top 15, and then of course Utah, USC, and then TCU. This was kind of going to be the big story for me, is seeing what Ben does. He was in the SEC. Obviously did not have the success in the SEC. Not shocked based on the team situations that he was going against, similar to the competitive nature of the conference over there. And that's the Pac-12. SEC, Alabama, LSU, Clemson gets welcome to the SEC, as well as A&M. Both users, I actually didn't really know this in regards to Legend until I think he had posted something yesterday about his conference wins, and then of course some of the success that he's had with A&M up to this point. At some point, I had to be able to had to slide him over into the SEC. You want to put the best teams in a competitive situation when it comes to game played. Obviously, the outlier is probably at this point currently Georgia. We'll see how we figure that out going forward, depending on how many seasons we have left. Just the quick overview or an idea of each conference. Florida State and Georgia are the top two. Auburn's team is definitely improved. So definitely shout out. I believe it's CJ or JC, one of them, with Auburn. So he's definitely improved that squad from its previous situation. We'll see how Miami plays with Bird. That team has kind of gone a little bit down from what I've typically seen with Bird with Miami. My expectation is that it's going to come down to the top three teams that you see up here between Florida State, Georgia, and Auburn. Going over to the Big 12, obviously Michigan State going to have an uptick when it comes to the competitive side. Not a crazy uptick, but definitely an uptick from that Pac-12. Obviously, it's going to be between him, Wisconsin, Smitty, Ohio State with G.A. Bound, Hendricks with Penn State, and then top playing with Texas. For the majority of the conference, I would say it's probably the same level of competitiveness that we had last season. Obviously, the removal of Clemson, you just add Texas. Being in New Year's, you're not really sure where that's going to happen or what's going to happen there. I don't know. I don't really have an idea. My expectation is that it's going to be Smitty and another user out of the conference. Going over to the Big Ten, a shift here. Obviously, Legend won the Big Ten last season with back-to-back. He had a win over against Colorado in the conference championship game. Ole Miss is coming over here. The last time I moved him out of the SEC, he went undefeated in the ACC. I'm curious if he's going to be able to do the same thing in the Big Ten. This is a grind-out conference from what I'm really looking at this conference, really outside of Jay Rose with Tennessee for the most part. Jay Rose is a street ball style player. He wants to play up the field, very similar to Roach in my opinion. And then he's a short and deep field guy type player. I mean, that's really how he plays the game. But this is really a grind out conference. It wouldn't shock me to see Austin in the conference championship again with a potential rematch with either Ole Miss. I'm really interested to see what I believe that's Nav playing with Arkansas. So I'm really curious to see who's going to be the second guy. But it wouldn't shock me if it was Austin and Ole Miss with Blaze in the conference championship. Going over to the Pac-12 again, I believe the new story is again this is going to be the theme. This is going to be a similar theme we go into next cycle as well, where we're looking at users either based on team situation or overall success. All those things are going to matter when we start looking at teams and where you're placed based on conference-wise. There's going to be something aligned to that, similar to team prestige. Currently, you have Missouri, UCLA, Washington, Nebraska, Utah, USC, and TCU. I wouldn't be shocked if Ben, I'm not going to say goes undefeated, but it wouldn't shock me if he's in the conference championship when it comes to this conference. He just came from the SEC. If he has a down season and not making the conference, I think that's going to be a really low season for him based on a competitive standpoint. Here's an opportunity for Frizzle and really everybody else in the conference. Kind of gives Quad an opportunity as well with that Washington team despite being down 84. The SEC is a whole different ball game. Again, another grind-out conference. You got a lot of strong teams in the SEC, which makes it very difficult to dictate who's going to do what. I've seen Gideon play well. I've also seen Gideon get, receive some grace based on an advance within the game. I've seen his game between him and Legend played when they were in the Big 12 together at one point, and I'm pretty sure that game Legend had pulled that out for the most part. I think Mark and Legend have had some competitive games back and forth. It'll be interesting to see what happens with DMAC going over into the SEC, but ultimately I think everybody feels like it's going to come down to who can take out the two juggernauts between Vic and T Raw. I've said this before. If it's T Raw, it's Traw. T Raw is just the name I'm really running with. Um, but ultimately, it's going to come down to knocking out one of these two, and that's going to be the task I think for the remainder of these guys. So it's going to be interesting because that's top 10. All these guys are top 10 sitting right here. So it'll be really interesting to see who out of this group doesn't make it, because it's just not possible for the entire conference to make it. Somebody's not going to make it. I think this last season there were four that made it out of the conference. So we'll see if it's a four, and then ultimately it's what four are going to make it. Obviously, we're getting closer to May. Impact scheduling, people going out of town, yada yada. So we'll see how that all plays out. Now, I know the one thing kind of beat my own record this time because this is the fastest that I think I've completed schedules. I haven't officially set the home and away games because I was just simply trying to make sure I get the schedules intact first. One of the schedules kind of got impacted. I was trying to set one game and it kept resetting. For anybody that's made schedules, the way the rivalry situation works on the game, no matter what, it just doesn't let you add certain games. It'll just reset and constantly reset. So I just decided I wasn't going to fight it. I wasn't going to sit here and try to make a whole bunch of adjustments. We're on the back end of the cycle. There's really not a lot of reason for me to sit there and go back and forth. The whole point is just to make sure everybody gets at least that 6 to 7, 8 games a season from a competitive standpoint before going into the playoffs. So I'm going to let the video roll. Everybody's going to be able to get a view. As I've stated, I am not changing anything. So do not put anything in the chat with your request about this person's schedule versus mine and yada, yada, yada. Hey, it is what it is. I got that done in like 45 minutes, like fast as I've ever done it. And I do not plan on changing anything except possibly addressing the home and away scheduling aspect of the schedule piece prior to us advancing. I believe there's only going to be 3 games in week 0 for the most part within the league. There's only 1 or 2. There's very few games in week 1 and 2, so that may turn around to be a quick advance. And then once we get to week 3, for the majority of the league, it's going to be heavy schedules all the way out to finish getting into the playoffs. So I'm going to let this roll, and then once that's done, I've got a call right after, and then once that's complete, I'm going to go in. I'm going to just verify the home and away schedule, especially with the guys that are in those top 5 prestige positions. And then after that, man, we'll get the schedules posted, and we'll go from there. Talk to y'all soon, man. Peace. I don't want to leave with that song. I'm just letting this shit roll. I'm definitely not going to leave with that. I did want to mention something. So I did put out the surveys, obviously. I wanted to say thank you for everybody that did complete them. Did get a lot of real opinions from a lot of people. Mostly good, which obviously we appreciate. I'm not sure if we're going to ever post those public because ultimately the goal is just to get everyone's perspective on how you felt about gameplay this far. But like I said, we're going to let this schedule roll. I get out of this call and get it set up. We'll go from there. Peace. All right, everybody, that's the schedule. Like I said, I've got a quick call that I'm going to jump into for work. Take care of your mentals. Definitely get outside, depending on where you are. It is a beautiful day. Um, I'll get this all set up. We'll get the schedules posted, and we'll go from there. Man, talk to y'all soon. Peace.